by leaders of the opposition in and around the Bharat Jodo Yatra and of course the Congress MP Rahul Gandhi. One of those comments came in from Farooq Abdullah where he likened his journey all across India like Shankaracharya had done many years ago. But what Shankaracharya did was to try and spread a message which perhaps was taken into Kashmir, which is the cradle of our civilization. Has Mr. Farooq Abdullah really walked the talk with respect to Shankaracharya itself? Has he really considered calling the Shankaracharya temple on the hill as Shankaracharya and not Takht-e Sulaimani as it was propagated? What will he answer to those bhakts of Shankaracharya and Shiva who were forced to leave their homes and flee on the 19th of January 1990? Ironic that just a day after 33 years of that Kashmiri Hindu exodus, Farooq Abdullah suddenly remembers Shankaracharya, and that too to liken him to Rahul Gandhi. Well, India is a free country, anybody can liken anybody to anybody, but there is a layer within a layer and perhaps a very planned, well thought out attempt to try and align Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party along with Hindutva just around the polls. And there is a story to that too, because senior leaders of the Congress party are on record and have said this in the past, not just once but multiple times, that we need the majority on our side if we need to win polls. So from Chunavi Hindu to Chunavi Hindutva, has this game now been caught? And that too, just weeks after A.K. Antony repeated what he had submitted in his report after the debacle in 2014 Lok Sabha elections.
कांग्रेस उपाध्यक्ष श्री राहुल गांधी हिंदू धर्म से हैं, परंतु वो जनेऊधारी हिंदू।
भगवान राम की खड़ाव बहुत दूर तक जाती है, तो कभी कभी खड़ाव लेकर भी चलना पड़ता है। तो खड़ाव लेकर हम उत्तर प्रदेश में चले हैं। उत्तर प्रदेश में खड़ाव पहुंच गई है तो राम जी भी पहुंचेंगे।
ये देश तपस्वियों का है, ये देश पुजारियों का नहीं है। रियलिटी इस देश की ये है। और अगर जैसे मैंने कहा इस देश को सुपर पावर बनना है, जो आप कहते रहते हो, तो तपस्वी की रिस्पेक्ट करनी पड़ेगी, उत्पादक की रिस्पेक्ट करनी पड़ेगी।
कई सदियों पहले शंकराचार्य जी आए थे, वो चले थे कन्याकुमारी से कश्मीर तक। ये दूसरे शख्स हैं जिन्होंने यात्रा की है उसी कन्याकुमारी से और कश्मीर पहुंच रहे हैं।
There are many others who walked from Kanyakumari all the way to Kashmir in the annals of our history, even the recent political history, ladies and gentlemen. But there is a reason, or is there a reason why Mr. Farooq Abdullah chooses to liken this with the walk of Shankaracharya? That's the big question, ladies and gentlemen. And here is where we bring in the context. This is what A.K. Antony had to say not so long ago, December 2022, where he says we need to keep the majority in our flock, we need Hindus to fight against Modi. July 2019, Congress lost due to perceived minority appeasement. Secularism versus communalism, poll tactic backfired. July 2014, party's proximity to minorities creates doubt. People not clear about party's equal justice policy. June 2014, people lost faith in party's secular credentials, perception that party bats for minorities more. This is what he has said repeatedly. A.K. Antony, a senior leader, former defense minister of our country, in his regular assessment has said that. And is there a concerted effort to try and play that line, along with the effort to drive a wedge between Hindu and Hindutva, BJP's Hindus and Hindus who are secular, etc., etc. So divide these lines and create further fault lines. In the garb of this Bharat Jodo, are more fault lines being created in Hindustan? Is another question that comes to mind. We'll debate all of that, but first listen into what Mr. A.K. Antony had to say.
പുരുഷ സമുദായം ഹിന്ദുക്കളാണ്. ന്യൂനപക്ഷത്തോടൊപ്പം ഹിന്ദുക്കളുടെ പുരുഷത്തെ കൂടി മോദിക്കെതിരാണ് സമരത്തിൽ കൂർത്താൻ സാധിക്കുന്നത്. അമ്പലത്തിൽ പോയാൽ നെറ്റിയിൽ തിലകം ചാർത്തിയാൽ ചന്ദന കുളിച്ചാൽ ഓളം തന്നെ അവർ ഹിന്ദുത്വ സ്വീകരിക്കുന്ന സമീപനം, ആ സമീപനം മോഡിയുടെ വെള്ളം വീണ്ടും വരാൻ മാത്രമേ സഹായിക്കൂ.
So is this entire Chunavi Hindutva charge valid? Is this entire charge that you're actually further trying to divide Hindu society and Hindutva itself and separate, trying to draw further wedges in Hindustan and the overall narrative under the garb of Bharat Jodo itself? Let's take this debate forward and open it up. Our guests this evening, Vivek Bansal, Senior Leader of the Congress Party, Amit Raina, Spokesperson, Roots in Kashmir and Kashmiri activist, and Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP. Sanju Verma, let's start with you.
Yes, Anand.
So my question to you is, should you take umbrage for the comments that are being made? Is this part of a deeper design? Would you agree? Is this being done with an eye on a vote bank rather than with a larger intent or a genuine intent? A tapasvi is different from a yogi. Bharat leke ja rahe hain, Ram jaldi aayenge. References by Salman Khurshid, Janeu-dhari Hindu. Even though the boy who was walking with him was wearing the Janeu the other way around, as if you're going to a funeral pyre, got it wrong. You never wear the Janeu outside. But all that aside, now Shankaracharya walked in the past and Rahul Gandhi is walking today, Kanyakumari to Kashmir.
You know, Anand, I find it so hilarious. And, you know, this is nothing short of being tragic that somebody like Farooq Abdullah, who is a known bigot, has the audacity to compare Rahul Gandhi with Adi Shankaracharya. And what is the commonality? The commonality is that, you know, centuries back, Adi Shankaracharya ne Kanyakumari se Kashmir aaye the wo, and since Rahul Gandhi started his yatra in Kanyakumari and is, most likely going to end it in Kashmir, let us equate Rahul Gandhi to one of the greatest 8th century Sanatan philosophy scholars. What I find more worrisome is the fact that now this has become a trend. If you notice, Anand, Salman Khurshid in November 2021, released a book called Sunrise Over Ayodhya. And there is a chapter in his book called Saffron Sky. And in that chapter called the Saffron Sky, Salman Khurshid has the audacity to say that Hindu Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, is equal to what is espoused by the likes of Boko Haram and ISIS. I mean, how dare you compare two organizations which have been named and listed by the United Nations as being amongst the top 2 terror organizations in the world to Sanatan Dharma, which is one of the most accommodative religions and is, not Abrahamic, does not believe in just the oneness of one God. We have more than 33 crore gods and goddesses. So we don't, as Hindus, need to learn diversity from the likes of a Farooq Abdullah, who is still a genocide denier. I remember, हमको Hinduism और सनातन धर्म पे भाषण कौन दे रहा है, आनंद जी? The man who last year walked away in a huff from a live interview to a television channel simply because he was asked to acknowledge the horrific Hindu Kashmiri genocide of 1990 and forget about being apologetic. He walked out of the interview. Hello?
See, Sanjuji, the other aspect is this person was the chief minister of the state at that time. When the state was in strife, he went off on a holiday and they all eventually tried to blame it on the governor. There are so many questions that can be asked of Mr. Farooq Abdullah, but the fact is it's quite rich coming from him that it's a stone's throw away from him. The climb or the ascent, the drive up to Shankaracharya Hill, how many times has he even bothered to go there? Or even acknowledge that it is Shankaracharya Hill in Srinagar overlooking the Dal. Amit Raina. So, when they make these references, should we see through it right away? Is there a pattern that is being built and should we not read through it or call it out?
The RNU situation yesterday was that it was 19 January, the day which Kashmiri Pandits saw exodus in 1990. And on 19 January, on the date, which commemorates the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits. You had the so-called Janyodhari Brahman, a person who claims his ancestors from Kashmir, the Kashmiri Pandit community, going and hugging a man who was responsible for the genocide of his community, who was responsible for the ethnic cleansing of his community. So it tells you that for politics, anything can be done, and they are willing to go and be partners with anyone, even if their hands are soiled in blood, they are soaked in blood. That's what Rahul Gandhi did yesterday. Farooq Abdullah is the same person who went and changed names of 700 villages in Kashmir that was because they had Sanskrit name, and they were changed to Arabic only. They did not suit his political agenda. They still go and call Shankaracharya Takht Suleiman, and he's the same person who calls Anantnag as Islamabad. So it is so funny that you are comparing a man with Adi Shankaracharya, the shining spiritual light of this country.
Amit Raina, I'm not able to hear you.
Am I audible now?
We're trying to connect. Yeah, you're audible now. Please go ahead. So compare him with Adi Shankaracharya, who's a shining spiritual light. That's where you are. Yeah.
Shining spiritual light of India, whose teachings are as impactful as they were ever. And he's comparing him with a man whose knowledge we all know. What is he known as? So it is shame that Rajiv Gandhi, the son, and both father and the father of Rahul Gandhi and Farooq Abdullah together were responsible for his friend's son, and saying, "Come, let's repeat the 1990 again." And the date chosen was January 19th, just to symbolically tell Kashmiri Hindus to get ready for what is going to happen next to them in this country.
No, it's also ironic, and Vinod Bansalji, I'm just going to check if he's there with us.
Vivek Bansal.
Yeah, Vivek Bansalji is with us. Let me just check. Vivek ji, are you there with me, Vivek ji?
Yeah. I'm very much there. Hello, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, there in between. Yeah, please. Would you want to respond? Yes, I can hear you now. Would you please respond to the BJP and what Amit Raina had to say, that this reeks of hypocrisy and quite rich coming from the likes of Farooq Abdullah and Rahul Gandhi?
You see, people have a tendency to whatever Congress if it does or say, be it identifying with or speaking about in a figurative terms about religious icons and gods and goddesses, they are into the habit of tearing us apart, getting into the technicalities of any statement made. If Mr. Farooq Abdullah says, and he compares him to Shankaracharya, what he meant, he didn't mean that. Definitely Shankaracharya established much, but things keep on evolving. In present day context, Rahul Gandhi is traversing the nook and corner of this country, and this was completely unimaginable. And with the avowed objective of uniting, strengthening the bonds of this diversity of this country, and if he is identifying him, that doesn't mean that he means to say that he's a sage or he's that big a saint as Shankaracharya. It is an analogy. I think it is to be respected in that sense, the spirit. Not one has to go into the letter of the statement, but into the spirit of the statement.
No,
when Mr. Salman Khurshid said
who is drawing this analogy, and for whom Vivek okay, please complete.
Please, let me just completely. If you are going to be a participant in that you have to be a moderator as such. So what I mean to say is, if Salman Khurshid said that Khadau, so you see, in our present day society, any good son is equated with Ram, कि ये मेरा बेटा राम जैसा है. And Maharshi Valmiki had said कि धर्म को समझना है तो मूर्तिमान रामो विग्रहवान धर्म, उनके आचरण को, उनके चरित्र को. So in that terms, if he said in a figurative terms, again I would say that, and this is a common parlance in a modern day society when we talk about a very doubtful husband, beautiful husband, doubtful, obedient son, we tend to say ki Ram jaisa hai. So, and we keep name our children as Ram and all. So that there doesn't have any objection in that. If he is equating that, I think anybody.
Vivek ji,
Yeah.
I request you. I request you थोड़ा सा अल्प विराम लगाइए. I would just I commend you as a leader of the Congress party that you're waxing so eloquent about Ram. But Ram is also Maryada Purushottam. Ram is also the rule of law. Ram is also the fact that that governance for all, appeasement for none, that our constitution envisaged Hindustan as Ram Rajya, and that was opposed by none other than Mr. Rahul Gandhi's great-grandfather who wanted us to ape the West. So let's try and not be very, very economical with the truth.
You see,
तब कहाँ गई थी ये राम? नहीं सर, तब कहाँ? देख, कुछ प्रश्न मेरे मन में, not as a moderator, as a भारतीय citizen है. तब कहाँ गई थी ये राम भक्ति जब राम सेतु को काल्पनिक बताया गया, ये बताया गया कि राम नाम का कोई व्यक्ति ही नहीं था. तब कहाँ गई थी ये राम भक्ति when the cry for Ram Lala Virajman and his right for Ram Janmabhoomi was actually opposed by the Congress as part of its leaders who in their profession as lawyers stood there and said, why do you need this, and postpone it after elections and etc. So many things come to mind as a citizen of this country. Where was this Ram Bhakti, sir? No, where was this Ram Bhakti, sir, when Hindus were being pushed out of Jammu and Kashmir? Where was the solidarity and the topic of Bharat Jodo? How many times has Mr. Rahul Gandhi ever in his long term as MP in Congress, MP in the Parliament, sir, ever raised the fact that 370 needs to be abrogated and made it an agenda of UPA too? Sir, how many times has he turned around and said 1964 a resolution was passed by Parliament and the Congress leadership at that time that they should abrogate 370 and we should implement that when the UPA came to power? Sir, सवाल पूछने के लिए as a citizen मैं बहुत सारे प्रश्न पूछ सकता हूँ, पर आज आपने कहा है कि it's just an analogy, treat it thus. Treat it thus. But Sanju Verma ji wants to say, no, I'm going to leave these questions for you to answer after Sanju Verma ji makes her point, and then I'll come back to you. Sanju Verma ji.
Thank you. You know, Anand ji, one thing which I really want to emphasize upon is the fact, and I say this with no qualms whatsoever, that when Prime Minister Narendra Modi laid the foundation stone of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple on the 5th of August 2020, he proudly wore his Hindu Sanatan Dharma on his sleeve without compromising on his stature as the Prime Minister of India, the largest democracy in the world. But look at Rahul Gandhi. चाहे 2017 के गुजरात इलेक्शंस हो or the recently concluded Gujarat elections where he did not even deem it fit to visit Gujarat for more than a day, that's besides the point. I clearly remember in 2017 he visited 27 temples in Gujarat. तो चुनावी हिंदू इसलिए नहीं कहा जाता है because BJP wants to undermine his so-called stature as the Congress would love to fancy and believe. But the fact is that the Congress has always believed in vote bank politics, whereas the BJP believes in justice for all and appeasement of none. I will end by asking one simple question. Do you remember the date 16th April 2020? Two Hindu sadhus in Palghar, Kalp Vriksh Maharaj and Sushil Giri Maharaj, were beaten to death by an angry mob in front of 300 policemen in Maharashtra. And who was ruling Maharashtra in 2020 April? It was a Congress-centric alliance constituting of Congress, Shiv Sena and NCP. Did Rahul Gandhi even once express remorse that two Hindu sadhus were brutally beaten black and blue by an angry mob for no reason?
Sanju ji, it is not just about whether somebody expressed remorse, somebody what they... The fact is, this game, is this a devious one, and are you reading through it or not? Or are we reading too much into it? That there is a deliberate attempt to project, not just in the name of Jodo, they are further dividing Hindu and Hindutva. They are trying to say BJP is Hindutva and our Hindutva. The way we are Hindu and the way you are Hindu. All this game is played in Hindustan only with Hindus. Are they turning around and saying the way we look at Muslims and the way you look at Muslims, the way we look at Christians, the way you look at Christians, the way we look at Parsis, you look at Parsis, the way we look at Sikhs and you look at Sikhs? Are they saying all of that? Are they trying to... When we talk about Sikhs, let me just ask. They went to the Golden Temple. Was there any turning around and asking this question? Who sent Bhindranwale into Punjab in the first place?
Exactly.
If you were to go by what GBS Sidhu has written in Khalistan Conspiracy, the first question comes to mind: who sent Bhindranwale to Punjab in the first place? And who said, "Bada ped girta hai to dharti hilti hai"? And who watched and orchestrated the burning of Sikhs alive on the streets of our country? That massacre.
Absolutely.
See, the Hindu exodus
Anand, you made some interesting
ignored.
points.
The Sikh massacre ignored.
Anand, also one more very interesting thing that I want to point out is that do you remember, now that you mention about this differentiation that is being propped up between Hindutva and Hinduism, do you remember that in as recently as November 2021, Rahul Gandhi is in public domain on record saying that Hinduism to acha hai, but Hindutva actually tries to undermine Muslims and Sikhs. Clearly, he was trying to suggest that speaking and talking of Jai Shri Ram is weaponizing Hinduism. Hindutva is a form of weaponization of Sanatan culture. And even recently, he brought in this entire differentiation. कि आप देखो आरएसएस के लोग कभी जय सिया राम नहीं बोलते हैं, सिर्फ जय श्री राम बोलते हैं. तो if Rahul Gandhi or his acolytes are watching your show, Anand, let them know कि जय श्री राम का श्री का मतलब है Lakshmi ji, and Sita is supposedly an incarnate of Lakshmi ji. So whom are you trying to teach Sanatan culture, Rahul Gandhi?
See, the point is that when we say Radhe Krishna first, when we say Siya Ram first, it is part of our culture. Jai Shri Ram उनके लिए बोलते हैं जो फिर भी राम लला है. Now the difference of a deity who's a deity who's a child, a deity who's an adolescent, and a deity who is married, and a deity who's king, the representation of this deity in a perennial state it's a little bit of a difficult concept to make somebody understand who believes that it is okay to wear their janeu outside on their suit. So Amit Raina, please back me up here. When it is Ram Lalla Virajman, not just the aspect of Shri as the mother, as the divinity, as Prakriti, that it's coined ahead of any deity is concerned, but it is Ram Lalla Virajman, it is baby Ram. There was no Sita there. So is that also so difficult to understand, that there is a difference, there is a reason why in Mathura you say Radhe Radhe, whereas in Kerala and Guruvayur you only say Krishna Krishna because that's baby Krishna. Here it is Radha Krishna. It's different everywhere. This concept itself is, if it is not understood, such people are going to explain what is Hinduism and what is Hindutva.
Well said.
Understanding of Hinduism not be expected from the Gandhi family. Let's be very clear about it. They are the same people who in 2008 and today you have a Congress spokesperson saying that, oh, it is just a comparison, or it is someone calling his child a Ram. It is the same party which in 2008 went and filed an affidavit in Supreme Court saying, challenging the existence of Bhagwan Ram. Now, another important thing is the presiding deity of Kashmir is Mata Sharda. It is known as the Sharda Bhumi. Shankaracharya went to Sharda, and the fourth door of Sharda, which was the south door, which was unopened, was opened to welcome him. Today, Sharda is with Pakistan, thanks to the great-grandfather of Rahul Gandhi, who gifted it on a platter to Pakistan, who went to...
I think, gentlemen, you haven't gone into the depth of history when you say ki his grandfather. Let me just tell you one thing. Kashmir is part of this country thanks to Mr. Pandit, his grandfather, that he ensured that Kashmir becomes a part of it. And you have to turn the pages of history, and the contemporary writers who have to say, don't go by the agenda which has been set by a particular party. And this is just contemporary.
Which contemporary?
And you are just
Vivek Bansalji.
I don't think this is the way a debate is going to function.
Vivek Bansalji, which historian are you talking about? A historian who believed that Yudhishthira was inspired by Ashok? Such historians. Are you talking about such historians, or should we talk about those who at that time vehemently opposed? Why is it that the interior minister of this country was denied any access or any action on only one riyasat, which has become the troublesome riyasat for the last 75 years for us? That is the riyasat of Jammu and Kashmir. Why is it that the man who sorted out the rest of India and ensured that Bharat remained akhand, that man was denied access to Jammu and Kashmir? Do you want to open up the chronicles of history? They're very inconvenient, sir, those comments what were made and what was done. Was 370 ratified by Parliament before it was signed upon and agreed upon? Let's ask these questions even as the Congress leader has walked out of this show. Inconvenient questions, because when you know your facts and then you challenge them with facts, then they turn back with rhetoric or just walking out. This is what happens, Amit Raina. When you turn them and challenge them with facts, then they come. So then it's all bluster what we are seeing then. It's a concerted effort to draw up a strategy. And it is done over a period of time. That you try and show him as somebody who's backing those Hindus who don't identify with BJP. So let's separate the Hindutva itself. Let's split Hindus right down the middle. So once again, in the name of Jodo, what is happening? Is it not Kato that is happening?
Hinduism is not backing BJP. Hinduism is believing in the concept of India, Bharat.
Exactly.
Dharm. और उनके वो समझ में नहीं आएगा, because to them Hindu is BJP and rest is for them, and they will do anything. Why not chosen as constituency? Why wasn't there some a different constituency chosen? Why is he comfortable with certain communities and segments of this country? Why? Because his thought process, his actions are reflect of what is against the largest population, the religion in this country, the Sanatani. And this has happened in the last 70 years. When Kashmiri Pandits went to meet Rajiv Gandhi, Hindus are getting killed in Kashmir, he got up and said, sorry, I can't help you, Farooq Abdullah is my friend. This is a documented fact. So today, comparing him with Ram Lalla, comparing him with Shankaracharya, nothing is an insult to the Sanatan Dharma, the Hindus and those deities themselves. I don't think there could have been a bigger insult to the people we respect, we worship, and we bow down our head to.
But the other aspect is, Amit Raina, quickly, just before I bring in a closing comment from Sanju Verma, should we also call out this entire strategy, carefully crafted strategy, that try and make references where you separate and say, this is what I am, this is not what I am, this is what it means, this is not what it means. And then, confuse the whole thing, once again, purely for electoral design. This is not for Bharat, this is not for the people of Hindustan, this is not for our culture or Sanskriti. This is pure play politics.
No, it is pure politics, and the more Rahul Gandhi speaks, the more he exposes himself. But yes, it is expose the strategy, the charade, the cover they are putting up to deceive the community which has supported them for many years. I think today, now when they stand exposed, they are trying every trick in the book to win back that constituency, which I don't think they will be able to.
The other aspect is that when is this person and those people who very clearly, comfortably, Sanju Verma took off on a holiday when the state was in dire distress and its population was being forced to flee. And till date, there has been no accountability sought from such elements. They still are being allowed space in the political spectrum. They still have not been taken to court for the crimes that they have committed, tacitly, overtly, covertly. There is evidence of them conniving with those terrorists, those brutes who raped innocent Indian women. They have not been brought to book. They are still being given a place in the high table. Why?
Anand,
then they will draw such analogies.
Anand, without trying to shove things under the carpet, I have this to say. I think the biggest slap on the face of the likes of Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah or Mehbooba Mufti for that matter is the fact that, the government is very clear. Modi government ki aap kuch bhi kar lo, you can go with a begging bowl to Pakistan, or as Farooq Abdullah had said once in 2018, China is the only country which can solve the Kashmir problem. Aap kahin par bhi jao katora lekar, Article 370 Abrogation is here to stay. We are not going back and bringing back Article 370. There will also be elections in Kashmir. Already the recommendations of the Delimitation Commission were put into effect last May. The fact is that if you remember, jab 2021 May, the DDC elections were held in Kashmir. Farooq Abdullah had formed an alliance, the Gupkar alliance of more than 6 parties, and they said कि 280 सीटों में से हम 250 सीटें लाएंगे. BJP emerged as the single largest party with 75 seats. 7 parties put together, including the likes of National Conference led by Farooq Abdullah, they could only manage 109 seats. So the fact is that the ordinary voter, the person who matters the most, be it in Jammu or in the valley, they have rejected the Gupkar alliance, and that, to my mind, is the beginning of the end of dynasties like the Muftis and the Abdullahs.
It's a very convenient. No, it's not. It's not about dynasty. There has to be an accountability for political crime or political intent to try and ethnically cleanse an entire region. And somebody cannot be washed away, and cannot be some elements or some parts of it who are responsible cannot be let go saying the voter will punish them. There has to be accountability. They cannot get a place at the high table and say, okay, the voter will make you irrelevant. That's not the answer. Somewhere that rankles Sanju Verma, and I'm going to wind up on this aspect, ladies and gentlemen, that those who are shaking hands and walking paths with those who want to once again de-link Jammu and Kashmir from all of Bharat, who are actually advocating for an Ek Desh, Ek Vidhan, Do Samvidhan to be brought back, can they actually believe in Bharat Jodo? And those who are shaking hands with them, is their intent really Bharat Jodo? Think about it. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar calls out the big pharma, this entire lobby and those who backed it, even as one of the pharma giants stands exposed at Davos when asked the tough questions on their vaccine bullying. Stay with us.
कोई विक्टिम तो इस चीज में होना बड़ा जरूरी है, क्योंकि उसके अलग तो ऐसे तो बीच में कोई ऐसी बात आती है तो लोग जब तक सामने नहीं देखते, प्रत्यक्ष को नहीं देखते कि भाई ये चीजें हैं, तब तक उसमें बड़ी दिक्कतें होती हैं.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद योगेश्वर हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Let me now go across to our guest. We'll be joined in a moment by Rahul Mehra. He's the Delhi Government Counsel. He's the man who took the BCCI to court. V. Krishnaswamy is sports journalist. Jayaprakash is joint secretary of the WFI and wrestler. Here in our studios, G. Rajaraman, sports commentator. Varsha Chaudhary is a wrestler as well. Let me start with Jayaprakash. आप joint secretary हो WFI का. I think it's got to a situation where Brijbhushan Singh जो है वो WFI के अध्यक्ष के रूप में अभी काम नहीं कर पाएंगे, बिकॉज रेसलर्स ने बोला है मिनिमम स्टेप, बेसिक मिनिमम स्टेप जो है, दिस हैज टू बी टेकन, ही हैज टू गो. आपका क्या कहना है? क्या बृजभूषण सिंह अभी भी कंटिन्यू कर सकते हैं?
देखिए, अभी कोई जो आप बता रहे हैं कि भाई ये चार्ज लगा रहे हैं या ये कह रहे हैं कि भाई इन्होंने ऐसा किया है सोशल, तो अभी तो कोई किसी ने बोला ही नहीं है कि भाई आप, दूसरे ही लोग तो बता रहे हैं कि भाई इन्होंने इस तरह से यौन शोषण किया है. आप कोई ऐसा तो सामने नहीं आया उठ के कि भाई हाँ मेरे साथ ये हुआ है.
नहीं, विनेश फोगाट ने जो आज बोला है, आपने सुना भी है, विनेश फोगाट ने जो बोला कि कल तक 2-3 लड़कियां ही थी, आज 5-6 लड़कियां उनके संपर्क में हैं और उनको ये मजबूरी ना की जाए कि वो पुलिस कंप्लेंट किया जाए. आपने सुना ना?
देखिए, नहीं, मैंने सुना है, आपने सुना है, अच्छे से सुना है, पर ये बताइए कि मैं भी ओलंपियन हूं, मैं भी कोई अगर इस तरह की बात बोलूंगा कि विश्वास किया जाएगा कि एक ही दम मैं बोल दूंगा कि भाई ये हो रहा है, तो क्या आप विश्वास करेंगे मेरा?
नहीं सर, क्या बात कर रहे हैं? 3-3, 4-4 ओलंपियन रेसलर्स जो हैं, जो महिलाएं हैं, वो सड़क पे बैठे हैं और आरोप लगा रहे हैं पूरे मीडिया के सामने, पूरे देश के सामने. क्या आप कह रहे हैं कि वो झूठ बोल रहे हैं?
ठीक है, नहीं, ठीक है, आप वो आरोप लगा रहे हैं तो मैं क्या सच मान लेंगे? क्या आप लोग सच मान रहे हो क्या इस बात को?
सर जी, उसमें तो कार्रवाई होगी, पुलिस कंप्लेंट होगी, एफआईआर होगी, वो मैं मान सकता हूं, वो गलत नहीं है, लेकिन कम से कम वो इस्तीफा तो दे दें. कम से कम वो ये कह दे कि मैं पेंडिंग इंक्वायरी स्टेप डाउन कर रहा हूं, इतना तो बनता है.
नहीं वो क्यों बोल दे, ये कह दें कि भाई हाँ ये मैंने किया है,
क्योंकि आरोप तो उनके खिलाफ है, इसलिए तो उनको स्टेप डाउन करना पड़ेगा। आरोप तो आपके खिलाफ नहीं है, मेरे खिलाफ नहीं है, आरोप तो उनके खिलाफ है, तो नैतिक तौर पे तो जिम्मेदारी बनती है ना उनकी।
क्या आरोप है?
यौन शोषण की आरोप है।
कौन आरोप कौन बता रहा है?
करप्शन की आरोप है, भ्रष्टाचार की आरोप है।
ये 3-4 ओलंपियन मैं भी लेके बैठ जाऊं, मैं भी आरोप लगाने लगूं, मानेगा?
क्या बात कर रहे हैं जयप्रकाश जी, मतलब देश देख रहा है, सुन रहा है, आप क्या बोल रहे हैं?
बताइए मुझे एक ही बात
नहीं, आप थोड़ा मतलब ध्यान से बोलिए क्या बोलना चाह रहे हैं। ठीक है, आप ये कह सकते हैं कि ये आरोप तो नहीं FIR होनी चाहिए, कोर्ट में जानी चाहिए, ये सब ठीक है, मैं मान सकता हूं, लेकिन ये तो मत कहिए कि 3-4 आदमी के साथ बैठ जाओ और मैं भी बोल दूं कि क्या सच हो जाएगा। क्या विनेश फोगाट, बजरंग पूनिया और साक्षी मलिक 3-4 आदमी हैं? आपके नजरिए में वो जरा सा आदमी है, साधारण आदमी है? क्या कह रहे हैं?
स्पोर्ट्समैन है आज, अच्छे नहीं सुनिए, आज अच्छे स्पोर्ट्समैन है, मैं भी बोलता हूं जी लेकिन ये थोड़ी है कि आप जब तक इंक्वायरी ना हो, जब तक कोई जांच ना हो, जब तक जांच करानी पड़ेगी।
यही कह रहे हैं कि जांच होना चाहिए, लेकिन जांच तभी हो पाएगी जब बृजभूषण सिंह, and I want G. Rajaraman, V. Krishnaswamy also to weigh in on this. There is no way you can have an independent, unbiased investigation against Brijbhushan Singh and the coaches as long as the people who are accused of that are still sitting in positions of power. It's as simple as that. You have to step down pending inquiry. Of course, nobody is prejudging the outcome. Let the police go into the heart of the matter and come to a conclusion one way or the other. But I'm convinced that you can't have that person sitting in a position of authority and have an independent inquiry. It can't be possible.
Zaka, what you're saying is right. If the Wrestling Federation of India is conducting an inquiry, then the Wrestling Federation of India president perhaps need to step aside. But if the inquiry is being done by the sports ministry or even by
the police,
for example, or the National Commission of Women, then maybe he can continue where he is and he's not going to influence the witnesses. I think it's important for us to understand that who is going to conduct the inquiry. The sports ministry has asked for a response from the Wrestling Federation of India.
Yeah.
And I really believe that the wrestlers must move courts of law, they must move the police, they must move the National Commission of Women, and then perhaps we can talk about how the president needs to step aside so that there is a sense of fair play and justice that comes in when a hearing happens.
I want to ask V. Krishnaswamy. So, one of the things that Bajrang Punia today said in his press conference is, just by this gentleman Brijbhushan Singh stepping down, you're not going to rid his power or his influence on the federation. He's just going to fill it up with a proxy. Now, they are saying the entire WFI needs to be dissolved, an entirely new management, an entirely new federation should come in its place, which does not have Brijbhushan Singh's influence or control. Do you buy that?
No, I really don't buy that. I mean, you can't say that there is just, if there is just one bad apple, you can't throw away the entire basket. I mean, you just can't get rid of that. I'm sure if India has produced some good wrestling results over the past few years, it's also because there are some good coaches, there are some good officials. I'm sure about that.
योगेश्वर जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। पूरा देश देख रहा है कैसे पिछले 2 दिनों से हमारे जो रेसलर्स हैं वो सड़क पे बैठे हैं, प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं। वो कह रहे हैं, आज उनका प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस भी हुआ था, उनका मानना ये है कि सिर्फ बृजभूषण सिंह जो अध्यक्ष हैं उनके जाने से या उनके इस्तीफा से मामला सुलझेगा नहीं। उनको ये चाहिए कि पूरा जो WFI है वो भंग किया जाए।
देखिए, मेरे को ये
Back on the right stand, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just gotten colder in the last 20 odd minutes that I had to get the jacket out here in Jaisalmer. That's where I am, ladies and gentlemen. But let's put the focus spotlight on the Pfizer CEO, who quite literally was tongue-tied. This was when questioned on vaccine efficacy, and there was a response that came from the Union Minister Rajiv Chandrasekharji on Pfizer's intended vaccine bullying. Remember the time during COVID when everybody was searching for a vaccine? There were those who were creating doubts on Covaxin, on Covishield, and then they were saying, why aren't you getting Pfizer in? Why aren't you bringing in the Pfizer vaccine? And India put its foot down and said, no, Pfizer is asking for indemnity clauses. Pfizer is asking for too many terms, setting too many terms for making the vaccine available, and at costs that would have been prohibitive for the ordinary Indian. Eventually, what played out is a different story in itself. The vaccine efficacy of India manufactured vaccines have been far greater and far higher and far better than that manufactured by some of the big pharma, including Pfizer. So does this all now stand exposed? Will those vaccine deniers, Bharat's vaccine deniers, those who are talking about our big pharma backers now apologize? Of course, there's politics around that too. But first, this is what the Pfizer CEO, Mr. Borla, had to say.
We now know that the vaccines didn't stop transmission, but why did you keep it secret? You said it was 100% effective, then 90%, then 80%, then 70%. But we now know that the vaccines do not stop transmission. Why did you keep that secret?
Have a nice day.
Is it time to apologise to the world, sir? To give refunds back to the countries that poured all their money into your vaccine that doesn't work, your ineffective vaccine?
Yeah, you have a little bit around.
Are you not ashamed of what you've done in the last couple of years?
What do you have to say about young men dropping dead of heart attacks every day? Why won't you answer these basic questions?
Shame on you, sir.
Shame on you.
There are many nations, ladies and gentlemen, and there are many, many reports. Some of these reports are really worrying. There are also reports, and that's there on Twitter files also, that put out details which said that this kind of big pharma spent millions of dollars trying to smother any negative campaign. There are others who have said that this has had very, very adverse effect on especially pregnant women. There have been tons of cases. Lots of lives that have been lost across various nations. These stories have been suppressed. But those who backed this big pharma today are quiet. Should they not be called out? Will they alter? Will they stand up and say, yes, we made a mistake? No, we were motivated. However, let's ask our guest this evening. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman, Nephron Clinic, should be joining us in a bit, but we have with us Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of ORF, George Korean, Political Analyst, and Sanju Verma, BJP National Spokesperson, who stays on with us through Debate 1 into Debate 2 on this edition of The Right Stand. George Korean, is it wrong to ask those big pharma backers? There are a lot of people who may now want to delete those tweets, those posts on Facebook, etc. But we know who they are.
Well, not really. Looking at the situation back then, when COVID had just got into India, so it was, as an opposition party, the Congress party took the lead in questioning the government. Why aren't they, getting in foreign vaccines into India so that the population could be managed and faster vaccines could be administered. Having said that, Pfizer CEO being confronted by the journalist and he's not answering to his question, that is his prerogative. He's free to do that. If you cannot just put that into perspective where you question Pfizer's efficacy or the genuineness of the vaccine, because it has been used all over the world. By putting it across is, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, in the last 8 years, how many press conferences has Mr. Modi or he has answered the press? No journalist can even reach even closer to Modi because he's surrounded with a four-layered security.
No, so what's the point that you're trying to make? Sanju Verma, would you want to respond?
The point I'm trying to make is, Anand, that the vaccines made in India has efficacy or not. It is too early to even come to that conclusion, because we are hearing cases of heart ailments and things like that. And just to corner the Pfizer CEO at this point in time, and with respect to his vaccine, is not right. Is what I'm trying to make it across to your audience. Yeah.
Anand?
No, but is it? Can you believe your own argument, Mr. Kurian? I'm quite shocked and surprised. Look at the world over data of the efficacy of Covishield and Covaxin. They are far better than Pfizer. The number of cases, number of nations that have suffered, and had that happened in India, would that not have that? What would have been the case then? The same people who would have called for Pfizer would have turned around and said, you brought Pfizer, so you are responsible, and then they would have held the government responsible. And would you want Pfizer to be indemnified? You would have said, take Pfizer to the court. But Pfizer said you have to sign an indemnity bond. Would you agree to it? Would you agree to sign an indemnity bond with a vaccine manufacturer saying that you indemnify them from any loss of life or anything that goes wrong with the vaccine? Would you do it?
Well, Anand, with respect to indemnity, the government of India has taken the right stand. I don't deny that fact. But having said that, the Covishield has been manufactured by Serum Institute in India. The research and the formula comes from AstraZeneca, and Bharat Biotech has manufactured Covaxin. So having said that, it's too early to come to a conclusion and give a certification. Self-certification is what I'm trying to say.
Sir, you look at multiple papers that have been put on Covaxin. The efficacy of Covaxin, and especially after the booster dose, is far greater. The 2 doses itself. Why should we put down what vaccine that are manufactured in our country just because you believe it is politically backed by somebody who you are politically opposed to? I can't believe this. It's our vaccine, sir. It's our vaccine which is proven more efficient than most of the vaccines in the world. We should be proud of it, irrespective of who did it. It's our scientists.
We are proud of Bharat Biotech.
I respect your point of view. Yeah, I respect your point. Why deny Bharat Biotech their credit?
Bharat Biotech, for that matter, or Serum Institute has taken with respect to see the heart ailments that are coming in news in public domain. Have they taken which kind of vaccine? Sir, have they administered themselves?
Sir,
with?
please present. No. See, this what you're doing right now. This what you're doing right now are just drawing conclusions based on hearsay. Give me one medical report, one paper, one concrete person, doctor, scientist who can say, I can confirm to you this is because of the COVID vaccine. It's all suppositions. Just like it was suppositions at that point in time that ये vaccine लगाने से वो हो जाएगा, वो vaccine लगाने से ये हो जाएगा, etc., and pushing vaccine hesitancy. Is this not irresponsible behavior towards the people of the country itself, who the Congress party is working hard to unite and bring together because you feel it is disjointed? But every utterance of yours is trying to split them further, break them down at all parameters. 1 minute. Yes, Sanju Verma, please respond.
Has the Serum Institute of Bharat Biotech done research?
The Congress.
No, sir. The story tonight is not Serum Institute. 1 minute, Sanju. The story tonight is not Serum Institute or Bharat Biotech. What they have done is phenomenal. For them to come out and give these vaccines at prices which can be afforded by the common man, and prices which the government with taxpayers' money can afford to fund, is itself human service, sir. Look at the cost of a Pfizer vaccine. How Pfizer has tried to milk and make billions out of a pandemic. And how humanity has suffered because those vaccines are not good vaccines, sir. Let's go after such people rather than try and give them cover fire. Let Sanju Verma come in. Yes, Sanju Verma.
Okay. Anand, I just want to take, the Congress spokesperson and your audience back to April 2021. There were 3 tweets put up, one by Jairam Ramesh, one by Manish Tiwari, and one by Shashi Tharoor. And all the 3 had similar content. The content was, the Modi government is setting a dangerous precedent by giving approval to Covaxin. We need to be on guard. The Modi government in desperation is treating Indians like guinea pigs. I mean, what could be more defamatory than these tweets, which actually ran down Krishna Allah's biotech, ran down Covaxin, which actually saved millions of lives back home, not only in India, but abroad as well. Now, coming to the moot point, the discussion today is not about the efficacy of Covaxin or Covishield or Corbevax, which has been proven beyond doubt. We can sit here and argue till the cows come home. But I think Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, Bill Gates, for whatever his comments are worth, Geeta Gopinath of the IMF, David Malpass of the World Bank, and Kristalina Georgieva, the head of IMF, have spoken in one voice that the only reason for India's brilliant V-shaped recovery far ahead of global peers is because of the stupendous manner in which India, under the aegis of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, managed the pandemic. Though, of course, we did have our highs and lows. Nobody's, discounting that. I want to also read out a tweet by P. Chidambaram, and I think this captures the essence of what Rajiv Chandrasekhar said about the Modi administration being bullied. But they should know better than that, because Modi is not somebody whom you can bully. Chidambaram writes in a tweet on 27th December 2021, people are surprised that only 3 vaccines have been made available in India: Covishield, Covaxin and Sputnik. Of the 3, you can write off Sputnik because only a small quantity was imported in the initial days. I fail to understand, why are we not importing Pfizer in large quantities? It could not have been more, forthright than this. I mean, Chidambaram was basically peddling Pfizer's cause. And let's be very clear, if you look at how Albert Bowler, you can say he was ambushed by those 2 journalists, but when he was asked, do you agree that your product is faulty? He kept quiet. Do you agree you've indulged in deceptive marketing? He was quiet. Do you agree that you paid $2.3 billion in commissions to brokers? Are you going to have to pay that kind of money again because of the rising number of deaths? He was again quiet. So I think he was not ambushed. He was exposed for what he is and for what Big Pharma is all about. Though I don't want to rubbish entire Big Pharma.
also called for last 8 years.
I did not interrupt you, so please hold your horses. Please hold your horses. I did not heckle you. Anand, I'll take 10 seconds. I think from 2 laboratories to having more than 2,000 testing laboratories, from less than 10,000 ventilators after more than 70 years of independence, to having more than 50,000 ventilators. I think the Modi government actually started from scratch and engaged in the
it's
world's
not
largest
right now
vaccination drive.
it's not about, you have written about it, everybody has spoken about it, but the larger question is this Big Pharma lobby needs to be called out, and especially organizations who are trying to bully nations into submission, into also giving them indemnity and so much more. There are other nations across the world and other continents who have come out and claimed that they wanted to set up their facility in their army area, in their barracks, and they wanted unbridled access to their defense facilities so that they could, and that's the kind of conditions that were being put in some of the nations who were in a far more desperate situation than Bharat. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai is with us, and we also have Sushant Sareen. Sushant Sareen, you are one of the few people who have also called out this Big Pharma in the past, so I want your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Anand, we are not discussing how well India did during the COVID pandemic, and I think we did an excellent job. Yes, there were some gaps, but there have been gaps everywhere. Do you know how many people have died in the US over the last couple of weeks on a weekly basis? Over 3,000 people. How many people are dying in India of COVID? Virtually nothing. Now, the Congress spokesperson, will pick up an isolated case, and in any vaccine, even the safest of vaccines, so-called safest of vaccines, there will be, the odd case of somebody just dropping dead, somebody, reacting adversely to a particular vaccine. That will happen. But if you look at the total numbers, I think an overwhelming, I think almost 99.99% cases, there have been virtually no after effect. So clearly the vaccines which we administered to our people worked, number one. Number two, what was more galling was not that somebody was asking for an indemnity or not indemnity. It was the way, the kind of lobbying, and it was hysterical lobbying, which was being carried out on the behalf of Pfizer and some of these other companies, so that they get an entry into the Indian market without any regard to the fact that just to administer the Pfizer vaccine required a kind of a cold chain which would raise the price of that vaccine to a point where India would have gone bankrupt. So for people to keep plugging for the Pfizer vaccine, obviously there was something else at work, and it was not good intentions, it was probably greenbacks. So yes, that's the way Big Pharma works, but Big Pharma was working in conjunction and in collaboration with American authorities and with many of these Western countries, which deliberately, were pushing for the Pfizer vaccine, which had very questionable antecedents and very questionable technology, if you can call it that.
Right. No, fair point made, but then Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, then those doctors who are trying to peddle the Pfizer vaccine and that format of the vaccine compared to Covishield and Covaxin, should they not also be pulled up and seen whether or not they have been influenced by the Big Pharma? Because what they were also doing was not service to society.
Good evening. Yeah. Good evening, Anand. My apologies for joining in a little late. Just cutting the chase, coming to the point, I think both the vaccines used in India, the Covaxin and the Covishield, have stood the test of time and have delivered. They had an initial efficacy which fell a little bit because of the new strains of Omicron, but the overall penetration of the vaccine, the campaign which was the fastest, the safest and the most precision driven, is full compliments to the Indian government, to the Indian researchers and to the medical community. With regards to the mRNA vaccines have also done well internationally, but the logistic dilemma of the cold chain storage of sub-freezing temperatures and commercial chillers would have pushed the cost of the vaccine into something which was out of reach even for an affluent person in India. Point number 3 is, when you have the Indian vaccines available, why would you like something to come in from outside? It defies logic. At the present moment, India still has perhaps the lowest case fatality load in the last 3 years, cumulative data, as compared to the Western countries, 1/10. If you talk in terms of the side effects, both the vaccines used in India have approximately 1/30th the side effects, including myocarditis or in fact thromboembolic phenomena. There is no pandemic in the world's history which sees no death. Yes, we've seen deaths. It has been extremely painful to see blood, tears and seeing patients dying in front of you. But that's the nature of the pandemic. We have been able to cut our losses within the limited infrastructure. I must put on record that we have done exceedingly well, but we must keep our guard up, push for the boosters, be careful not to attend close gatherings and always wear a mask.
The other point, Dr. Bagai, should India have blinked when such big pharma were asking for indemnity?
No, I think any country like India would think of India first, for Indians first. We have to think of our own interests. If an international product such as a vaccine is coming in, or a pharma company or a drug manufacturer, they have to be held accountable. You can't provide medicines or vaccines without any legal implications. They should have been bold enough to say so, and I think India was strong enough to deny them this. And we have our 2 vaccines in India, which have almost a 90% penetration in the adult eligible population.
Anand, can I make a quick
Sushant Sareen, I have limited time, so yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so Anand, I think when you ask this question whether we should have accepted or we did the right thing by not, falling for the blackmail, one of the reasons we were able to avoid that blackmail was what is now called Atmanirbhar Bharat. The fact that you were manufacturing your own vaccines, the fact that you had a base from where you could manufacture these vaccines, and you had a fabulous company like Bharat Biotech to manufacture an indigenous vaccine in record time and manufacture it in numbers that we needed it, meant that we could resist the blackmailing tactics of Big Pharma. So I think you need to give the credit, and I keep saying it and I'll say it again on your channel. The 2 people who actually deserve Bharat Ratna are the Bharat Biotech CEO and the Serum Institute of India CEO. These are the people who actually deserve Bharat Ratna.
Well said. Yes, final 20 seconds and I'll give it to you, George, and I'll wind up after that.
Well, Anand, I don't want to take away any credit from Bharat Biotech or Serum Institute. Having said that, I just want to put it across to Sanju Verma that Congress leaders may have in the past questioned why the government not importing foreign vaccines like this one.
No, so then they should not say that it's a lie. They should not say it is Canada. I'm running out of time. No, was the no? We'll debate on the intent too. I've run out of time very soon. Thank you very much. Zaka ready with brass tacks.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. The biggest crisis facing wrestling in India is boiling over. For the second day running, protesting wrestlers have met with Sports Minister Anurag Thakur, but there's no resolution to their standoff. The person who's in the crosshairs, the Wrestling Federation President Brijbhushan Singh, is also doubling down. He says there is no question of resigning. He says he's an elected president of the WFI. He's not there because of anybody's charity. So,